Okay, so this is just going to be a tutorial on how to do every single part of naming for ionic bonds, mostly with polyatomic ions. So if you were confused on Friday, this is a good video for you. It's just a few examples, and I'm going to do all of them with you so you can do the worksheet that's due today. So really the part of the table you're going to be using is right here. It says polyatomic ions. Okay, so you're going to have to be looking at that side of the periodic table a lot. So number one, how to name the polyatomic ion. CH3COO. I would just go to this chart, and the very first one, it's right there, CH3COO, and that's called acetate, and I would just write down acetate. Okay, now for the second one, CR2O7. So I'd go here on the chart and look for that CR2O7. And it's right here, called dichromate. So I would just write down dichromate. It's always safer just to put these in parentheses, and then you put the charge on the outside. Okay. When you find it on your worksheet in parentheses, it's telling you they're like a set, which means it's really telling you go to the polyatomic side to your chart. NO3 on your periodic chart is nitrate. PO4 is phosphate, SO3 is sulfite. And all I'm doing is looking at the periodic chart for this. Okay, and the side of the periodic chart you're looking on is right here, polyatomic ions. You're just matching. So that's purely identifying. Does everybody know how to at least find them? Okay. Again, if you already know how to do your worksheet, get started on your worksheet because it becomes homework, okay? But if you just want a tutorial on every single section, that's what I'm doing. I don't take this paper for a grade. This is purely just practice. I'm reteaching what I already taught on Thursday and Friday. So that's how you name the polyatomic ion. Then it says, notice how the charges go outside the parentheses. That'll get important as we get harder questions. How to write the formulas for polyatomic ions. So chlorate, you go back to the chart, okay? You find chlorate, I see it right there. It says ClO3, and that's what I write down. That's it, I just named it. I just gave it the formula. That's all you need to do. Carbonate, I'm gonna go to the chart, look for carbonate, it's right there. CO3. Hydroxide is the last one. You do the same thing. You go to the chart, you look for the word hydroxide, and you write down the formula. Anybody not know how to find it on the polyatomic chart? Okay, you can add the charges. It's always good just to get in the practice of doing that. And the charges on the periodic table too. On Friday, you put the charges on the outside. If you're not sure what I'm talking about with charges, let me see if I can zoom in. If it just has a negative sign, like on OH negative, that means -1. And go ahead and put the charges on the outside of the parentheses. See, chromate is CrO4, but there's a -2 above it. you put it on the outside. So these periodic tables are more than likely made by someone, and it was probably easier on the computer program to line it up like that. But really the parentheses, the charges go on the outside. Because the charges can change, but what's inside the parentheses cannot change. That's why it's set up like that. But as long as everyone knows how to at least name and find the charges. Are we good there? Okay, we're halfway done with the practice. Again, I don't want this to be long because I want you guys to have plenty of time to work on your worksheet. So this top portion says how to name polyatomic ions combined with regular elements of the periodic table. So sodium, Na, you would find it on the regular side of the periodic table. So on this side you flip back and forth. Na's right here and it's sodium. So you would just write down sodium. ClO4, when you see those parentheses, you need to tell yourself, go to the polyatomic chart. Flip the chart back over. ClO4 is perchlorate. It's down at the bottom. Alright, and that's all you have to do. So you're still matching and identifying, just looking for the letters on the chart. Sr, that's on the front of the periodic chart, the normal side. Strontium. And then NO2 is on the other side, the polyatomic. It's nitrite. It's right there, NO2. Anybody have any questions on how you name them when it's like a regular element and then mixed with the polyatomic? Okay, I'm going to keep going because I do want you guys to have the max time for that worksheet. How to write formulas for the combined ones. So if it says magnesium cyanide, we know magnesium's a regular element on the regular side of the periodic chart, and that's the symbol for magnesium. Magnesium is number 12. It's right there. It's Mg. So I write Mg. Cyanide. Cyanide's not an element. You're not going to find it on the regular side. And it might take some time looking around since, you don't have the periodic table memorized, but that's fine. Cyanide is on the polyatomic side. It's right there. And it's Cn with a charge of -1. What's the charge of magnesium, though? +2. Good job. Awesome. Okay, we have to switch the charges. So when we're all said and done, the 2 goes with the cyanide. So MgCN2. So what I did there, I gave them their charges. Okay. And then they have to move to the other element. So the 2 goes here, and the 1's given to the magnesium. I'm going to zoom in so you can see it. You don't have to write the 1 because just by writing Mg tells you there's 1 magnesium. Okay, so I put the charge for magnesium +2, put the charge for cyanide -1, and then I drop them down. I butterflied. Any questions on that one? We're going to do another one. Okay, so potassium is K. That's on the regular side of the periodic table. And then nitrate is on the polyatomic side. Nitrate is NO3 with the charge of -1. This is -1. What's the charge of potassium? +1. Okay, awesome. They cancel out. So it would just be KNO3. So remember, part of the bonding process is they have to cancel each other out. Okay? Like the sum of all the charges need to cancel each other out. So that's why I'll show you when on the harder part down below. Okay, lithium sulfate. Lithium's Li. Sulfate is SO4 -2. What's the charge of lithium? Just +1. Okay, so what I'm saying when they have to cancel each other out, if I were to separate these, lithium and sulfate, this side only equals +1, but this side equals -2. Okay, so for one lithium atom, if I just had one, I'm only going to get +1. So how many lithium atoms do I need? Okay, so I'm going to add another lithium atom. So then this whole side now is +2. This whole side is -2. So that's why I write it Li2. So I'm telling everyone I had to have 2 of them. Okay. And it's the same thing if I were just to take this and drop it down here, take this and drop it down here. Okay, the 2 went to the lithium, and SO4, there's just one of them. Okay, so let's go to the hardest part, and that's it. I'm done. Okay. So follow along. If you're working on your worksheet, follow along on this part. Okay, so how do you find the charge for the metals in the middle portion of the periodic table? Right here, the ones that we're always unsure of. How do we find those? Those are called transitional metals. So remember, the charge of the second element must cancel out the first one. So the total charge has to equal each other. That's the same thing we did up here. So here's your example, Fe2O3. So we know the charge of oxygen, right? We can look at the periodic table and find the charge of oxygen. You're always going to know the charge of the second one. But there's 3 of them, okay? So in this jar, it's -2, -2, -2. So the entire charge of oxygen is what? It's -6. I don't know what the charge of Fe2 is, because Fe's in that middle region, okay? But I do know I have 2 Fe's. So there's my 1 Fe. Here's my other Fe, okay? But I do know it has to equal +6, okay? So what times 2 gives me 6? 3. That's why the charge is 3, okay? That's why both of those irons have to be 3. This has to be 3 and this has to be 3. Because we know it has to cancel this -6 out. It has to cancel it out. And I'll go over some more practice ones. But when you write it, whatever the charge is of the metal, you put in parentheses. So it's iron, Roman numeral 3, oxide. And that's only on one part of your worksheet today. Okay, so start with the easier parts and then get to this part, and then I'll help you with it. The worksheet is due at the end of the period, guys, so you have 30 minutes.